Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Monique, and in behalf of the entire marketing club, I'd like to welcome you all to our event entitled How to Market Yourself in the Job Market. So, as mentioned, I'm sure all of you have read, we will be discussing more about post-COVID and post-COVID marketing landscape and how you can definitely succeed in it. And before we officially start, let me just set some ground rules. So there will be two parts in this event. The first part will be a panel discussion. And during this time, we'll be muting everyone all throughout. And if you do have any questions in mind, please take note of all of these. And because right after the panel discussion, we'll be having a Q&A session wherein we will be separating all of you into two breakout rooms, just so you'll have a more intimate Q&A sessions with our dear speakers. And for each breakout rooms, there will be two speakers each, and it will run for about 10 minutes. And then after that, we'll be switching the rooms around, so you'll be able to speak with the second batch of speakers by then. Okay, all right. And also this event will be recorded and we will be posting it on our social media channels afterwards. And without further ado, let me introduce our speakers for the event. And just to let you all know, all four of them are Macquarie alumni, specifically MBA alumni. And our very first speaker is Miho Brown. She is currently the e-commerce retail marketing manager of Lego ANC. She has 8 years experience in sales, marketing, and e-commerce within the FMCG and toy industry over both ANZ and Japanese markets. So prior to Lego, she worked as an account supervisor for a marketing agency specializing in cross-cultural promotion between Japan and Australia. And our second speaker is Greg Kearney. So Greg Kearney is the executive manager of media for Suncorp Group. And he has 15 years of media agency experience working on a variety of blue chip brands, including Westpac Group, Coca-Cola, and ING. And he also co-hosts a film podcast called Double Impact. And our third speaker is Paul Bacanu. He is the global head of marketing for Curious Things AI. And he is a seasoned marketing leader with experience in all facets of marketing, communications, PR, and advertising. And yeah, he has sharpened his digital marketing skills by running his own marketing agency in Sydney. He also developed his expertise on the client side with companies such as Dell Technologies, Dropbox, and Curious Things AI right now. And the fourth speaker is Jenny Woodward. She is the Chief Financial Officer of Douglas Partners, and she is a highly accomplished, results-driven senior finance executive with more than 20 years of experience in finance and operations management. And she is also the founder of Unlock and Empower, which is a company that's dedicated to helping professional women live bigger, both in their career and life. All right, so I'll just give this floor now to the speaker to briefly introduce themselves. So starting off with Miho.
Cool, yeah. Thanks very much for having me. So my name is Miho. So just to give you my brief background, so I started my career journey as a sales at Johnson & Johnson consumer company in Japan. And I always wanted to be a marketer, but of course, like opportunity is not always available. So I stayed as a sales for the first 3 years, and then suddenly the just opportunity came to me to become the very first member of e-commerce team. So I had no idea what e-commerce is at that point, but at that time, but the I got the opportunity somehow, and I still remember the first time I joined a meeting with Amazon team. I had literally no idea what they're talking about because there's so much Amazon acronym, so much digital marketing acronym, and like it's quite embarrassing to say it, but at that time I didn't even have I had no idea how to read a P&L. So that is the main reason I decided to pursue an MBA and move into the Sydney in 2016. While doing MBA, I did a couple of part-time jobs, and then after completing MBA, I joined a marketing agency, and then here I am. I still feel so fortunate to work with Allega. And I'm basically working with major retail partners to do all e-com marketing activity. So that's me.
Thanks, Miho. Now, can we have Paul?
Sorry, my internet connection was pretty terrible. So what can I say about myself? I've studied psychology and marketing. It started a while ago in the agency space with a couple of boutique agencies in around 2012. Before starting my own agency in 2014. Then moving into the corporate space with a few contract roles here and there with Fairfax Media, Dell, before moving to Dropbox, and then finally with Curious Thing. Look, I've always been curious, and I've always focused on upgrading my skills. So I think when it comes to education, with a lot of us at Team GSM, it never stops. And certainly with digital marketing and the way that it evolves nowadays, no one will probably ever stop.
Thanks, Paul. And now we can have Greg.
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so like Monique said, my background was predominantly in agency, so media agent specifically. So in the context of an MBA within the marketing unit, that's the IMC process. So working through integrated marketing campaigns. So in my current role at Suncorp Group as executive manager of media, it's kind of managing that process with our external agency partners and internal marketing team. So essentially, I'm responsible for planning and buying our media dollars. So that can be anything from TV sponsorships or right through to partnerships with Google and paid search. So it's the full gamut. And then additionally, working through the measurement side of things. So working with econometric models and things like that to ensure that what we're spending our money on is actually working for our business, which has become more and more important as the years have gone on. That's proving out the business impacts of marketing. So that's an important part of my role now too.
Amazing, yeah. So last but not the least, our fourth speaker, Jenny.
Thanks, Monique, and thanks for having me. So I've been working in the finance arena for more than 20 years, primarily large multinational AX listed companies, including companies like Coca-Cola, Lendlease, and a lot of the large pharmaceutical companies like Novartis, and some of the smaller pharmaceutical companies as well. So most recently, my roles have been working on large-scale business transformations and also business turnarounds. And I think that's probably as a part of COVID as well. And to do that, I really partner with senior stakeholders and enhance the business performance across all functions of the business. I suppose, like other people have said, I love learning, and I've completed my Bachelor of Business, completed my MBA. I'm a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and I'm also a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. The other thing that I would say is I'm really passionate about helping people, and that's where Unlock and Empower stem from. And I really like to do that. And one of the things I would say, and we were asked for sort of quotes at one point, is I love the Oscar Wilde quote, and I think it's relevant to what we're talking about today, is to be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. So it's so important to be yourself, particularly when marketing yourself in a new job market or even at the company that you currently work in. So if anything, you'll hear me say it's so important to let your personality and yourself shine through, because that's part of your personal brand.
Thanks a lot, Jenny. Yeah, all right. So let's start off now with our panel discussion, and it will be facilitated by Vas. Take it away, Vas.
Cheers. Thanks, Monique. Thank you also to the audience for joining us. Hopefully you're going to look forward to the session. A quick question and a quick favor we'd like to ask of you is that when we are doing the panel discussion and then the Q&A sessions within the breakout rooms afterwards, if you can please switch your camera on, that would be great. Firstly, our speakers will definitely appreciate that, and that they'll get to actually see, put a name to a face, number one. And then number two, it'll really help us in terms of promoting this event on social media afterwards as well. So if you could please kindly switch your camera on, that would be great. So without any further ado, what we're going to do right now is this panel discussion. We're just going to kick off with a few basic questions that all of our speakers, if you're able to just give a quick answer for or your thoughts on. It's going to be a bit more generic in style, and then once we move into the Q&A into the breakout rooms, you'll get some more sort of individualized focus questions from our audience, depending on what they're after. So we'll start off, Jenny, you were last with your intro, so we'll make you go first this time. We'll just start off with a very easy one. In your opinion, what are the skills and attributes companies like the ones that you've worked for look for in a particular candidate, specifically for marketing roles?
I suppose, I mean, my background's finance, but I think I've got a generic set of things that I know myself and my executives look for in any person in an organisation. And I think particularly with COVID, when I'm talking to people that are hiring and when I'm hiring, we're really looking for things like resilience, adaptability, and a real can-do attitude. So there's a lot changing, a lot that's, you know, that we need to do differently or think differently. We have to think on our toes now. It's, you know, the world is changing very rapidly, and we need people that can adapt to that, but also that are willing to try new things and trying to work a different way. And I think with, you know, the flexible working and being home and being in the office and working between the two and really having, I suppose, work and life integrate a lot more and not having those boundaries there, I find resilience is also key, and being a resilient worker as well. So they're my three.
Thank you so much for that. I'll put the same question to you, Greg, but I'll add a little bit more to say that if you're someone, for example, who's either transitioning in towards marketing or starting your career for the first time in the industry, in this particular environment, how is the best way for you to position yourself, considering that it's such a popular area to go into? You've got so many particular people who've got the attributes that Jenny just alluded to. What are the things that you would be looking for as candidate based on your experience?
Yeah, look, I would say it probably does depend. And the reason for that is the modern marketer wears so many different hats. So, you know, at a CMO level, you might spend the morning reviewing some new TV ads and then go into a board meeting and present a business case for further funding to a board and a CFO. So there's so many different ends of the spectrum you need to work with. I think at a more of an entry level, again, it depends. If you go to a larger organization, you'll typically be going into a bigger marketing team, in which case there will be more specialist roles for you. So I think it's important to pick the specialist role that you like, whether it be content or social media or analytics and something a bit more data driven. So there's knowing the area of interest within marketing, if you're going into a bigger organization, is key. And then on the other side of it would be if you went into a smaller organization where you need to be a bit more of a jack of all trades and have a broader view and a bit more hands-on in the end-to-end marketing function. So I think just being clear about what you want to go for in that instance, and then making sure that your skill set lines up to what you're going for, is probably the best advice I could give.
Thank you. I'll just ask a very quick follow-up. This is going back to my training as a journalist. Is there any kind of benefit of choosing one over the other? For example, choosing a large organization to start your career versus a smaller one in which you can be a bit more of a jack of all trades?
I think they've both got merits, and they've probably both got, you know, challenges to them. So I don't think there's either right or wrong. You know, for me, I started off in an agency environment. So I transitioned into corporate world only less than 2 years ago. But that environment was perfect for me at that life stage. It was really fun. I met my wife, and I learned a few things along the way. So, and then I've transitioned into still a specialist function, being IMC in a big corporate. So I honestly reckon that there's so many different roads you can take, and marketing is, the function's quite broad. So, you know, see what jobs are out there, see what looks like a right fit culturally for you. I think matching your cultural values to the organization is probably a more important approach to take than picking a big or a small company.
Thank you so much for that. Paul, I'm going to come to you now, and I'm just going to put some variances to the original question. I suppose the question I'll come to you is, I'm starting my career or my studies in marketing, and I'm learning the ropes, so to speak, on an academic sense. I'm trying to build up my networking through events like this. What would you say is the best way, apart from just simply applying through jobs via LinkedIn or other avenues like Seek, for someone to really stand out, make themselves stand out to prospective employers like yourself?
Thanks for the question. When it comes to the times that we live in now, and even before the pandemic, it was really hard to stand out. And a lot of people end up in the jobs paradox. You go to a job you apply for a job to actually get some experience, but when you actually go to the interview or apply, you get knocked back because you don't have that experience. So how do you get the experience in order for recruiters to look at you and go, that's a really good candidate? And the way to do that is be entrepreneurial. Hey, you're studying an MBA, do it. Get out there, start your own business. And as Greg said, whatever your interests are, some people are good at content, some other people are good at design. Just, go take a Udemy course if that's what you require in order to become an amazing artist when it comes to Photoshop, or there's a lot of other courses that you can also take on the side to help you write better content, and then start publishing content, maybe on YouTube, maybe write a blog, maybe write it on social media, LinkedIn, and build yourself a portfolio. And with that portfolio, when you apply for a role, then you can say, hey, look, this is what I've created so far. And that way will guarantee your sort of foot in the door when it comes to impressing your future manager.
Thanks for that, Paul. And finally, but definitely not least, Miho. I'm very intrigued about your background working in Japan and then also in Australia, and also the fact you started off in sales and now you've moved towards e-commerce and then marketing. So with reflection of the first question about how people can position themselves, how would you say from your experience is the best way to position yourself? Is there anything further beyond what the other three speakers have already said, or is there anything else that you could suggest?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I'm not sure how many international students here, but definitely my main struggle when I moved into Sydney was the lack of experience working in Australia. Throughout for the job hunting, I found probably there's a two-way to do like personal branding. One is to just excel with rich skill and rich experience, or differentiate and make yourself so unique to that position. So I definitely took the second way to do it because I just can't compete with the local marketer who has rich experience. So when we speak about marketing, it's quite general, but there's so many ways to make it unique. For example, marketing in finance industry and marketing in FMCG industry, definitely it's a big difference. So there's definitely one layer that you can add. And another thing, what worked for me was the Amazon experience in Japan. And when I moved into Sydney in 2016, that was the exact timing that Amazon Australia launched their platform. So that's another layer add into my marketing. So that way, it really helps me to make myself really relevant to the exact job position.
I'm very interested, and just a very quick follow-up for you as well, Miho. As far as your experience was concerned, you talk about the struggle of being an international student and trying to compete against what you would call the local talent and the local sort of resources that are available here. We've got I dare say we have fair few people on our audience who are international students who are exactly in the same position that you were a few years ago. In your opinion, would you advocate them possibly doing what you did, is to go back into either your home country and redevelop your skills? I know it's easier said than done at the moment with COVID, but is it really a benefit in your opinion to gain that gain that academic qualification here in Australia and then be able to apply it at home and then come back here to grow your career? Or is there still avenues available in a post-pandemic world where international students can grow within this particular market?
It really depends. I like the word depends correctly. I think that's a key word I learned at my MBA journey, I guess.
It's what we all learn.
Exactly. But look, again, to go back to my point, before I joined Lego, I work at the marketing agency who's specializing Japanese and Australian the marketing agency who support Japanese company who try to get in the Australian market. So that's another, key differentiation point yourself. I can speak Japanese or, hometown's language. So yeah, I mean, it really depends. Sorry.
No,
I don't have the clear
fine.
answer, but yeah.
No, that's absolutely
There's so
fine.
many ways to develop yourself in this market or your back country.
Sure. Jenny, I'll move to a new question now. How do we best approach recruiters, especially if you've got no prior background into marketing or a very sort of basic background in marketing? In this kind of market where there's so many candidates who, after the pandemic hit, lost their jobs because of the environment they found themselves in, what's the best way to speak to a recruiter and say, this is who I am and this is what I can do? What's your advice in positioning yourself?
Yeah, look, I think I find I've been quite successful in my career because I manage my networks very effectively, and it's an ongoing relationship that I have. And what I would say is one of the easiest things to do is to get onto Seek, get onto LinkedIn, get onto one of those platforms and look at the ideal jobs that you want and who's got them. And then target not 10 recruiters, maybe 3 or 4. Recruiters are such an untapped resource too in other areas. So I think you should do that, target a few, pick up the phone. But before you pick up the phone, you need to be really clear on what you're looking for, what value you bring to an organization. I mean, Miho talked about how do I differentiate myself? What is a value about me that's different to everybody else? So why should you listen to me? And that goes for, anything in your life, not just calling a recruiter. And then you need to have that backed up, because usually what they'll ask for is either a meeting and they'll want your resume. So you need to have, I sort of talk to people about having a good job search toolkit. So be really clear on the value that you have and translate that value into a cover letter, into your CV and on your LinkedIn profile. So we know when anybody's looking at you, because they'll go straight to your LinkedIn profile while they're talking to you on the phone. And everything has to say the same message. Everything has to have the same clear information on it. The other thing that recruiters, when you do tap in and you have an ongoing relationship with them, they will invite you to events. Go to the events, turn your camera on, be present, be seen. Because a lot of the jobs that my most recent job, so I left a job with no job to go to in the middle of COVID. I resigned in March. The job wasn't for me. And I took a risk, and I had other CFOs that had been out of work for 6 months and said, that's ridiculous. I said, I have a good network and I feel okay. I went to some recruiter events, but because I was always front of mind, when a job came up, when they knew what I was looking for, they knew the sorts of experience that I've had. So we talk about, from a marketing perspective, is it, analytics that you're good at? And they, they're talking to a client and they're like, oh, I remember Jenny was at that event last week. I'm going to give her a call. I had my camera on, but I also contributed to the meeting as well. So, I think you make contact with those recruiters. You then keep in contact with those recruiters. When they email you, you talk to them. When they have an event, you make sure you go and you have something that you talk about that's of value. And the other piece is, the piece around your LinkedIn as well. I always think, we touched on it a little bit, is, when you're talking about publishing content, Paul talked about, and building a portfolio, then, do that within LinkedIn as well. So a recruiter that you're connected to might post a really good thing on there. Respond, but don't just like it. actually have a comment on it that says, really good information, really liked your message around this, because that shows up on your feed and that then gets you noticed more and it makes you stand out more. So I know people hate recruiters and people love them, but they're such a valuable network and they have so much to offer. And you know what? They'll review your CV for you for free. They will help you out. You just got a relationship and an ongoing relationship.
100%. Sorry, I didn't mean to just cut you off very momentarily there. I will just throw a very quick follow-up to you as well. It's very interesting, that piece about trying to make sure that you have a very clear understanding about how to present yourself, keep yourself front and center in the minds of others. Is that a quality or a skill that you kind of knew from the very early onset of your academic or working life? Or is it something that you've had to learn over time? And can it be something that you learn even if you're well within in your career right now?
I think it's something that you learn, but you learn to, people talk about, USPs or things like that. What are you? What do you stand for? These are, we've got marketing people on the call. If you know how to market things, how do you market yourself? So there's a little bit of work that needs to be done. I'm an accountant, so it's even harder because we don't have marketing brains generally.
I think you're selling yourself short there.
So I think it's really important that I suppose you've got to do the work on yourself, but it changes. So, I started as a chartered accountant and I knew that I liked chartered accounting, but I wanted to get into commercial and actually be hands-on in a business. And then when I was hands-on in a business, I realized it actually wasn't the technical work I really loved. It was the leadership, the mentoring, the people management stuff. So, as I was looking for different jobs in different stages in my career, the experience that I had, I would tweak it. So if I was really looking for a people management and mentoring type finance role, then I would say, I want a role where I'm managing people. These are the sorts of things that I've done with the people I've managed. Here's my skills and experience. And I'd highlight that on my LinkedIn. I'd highlight that on my resume and in a cover letter, because that's what I was looking for. So I think, as you move forward in your career, what you want now may be different to what you want in 5 years or 10 years, because you have different experiences and you go, actually, I really like that. I thought I loved this type of work, but actually now I've gotten into this type of work. I like that. And that's what I want to do moving forward.
Thank you so much. Paul, I'll move that question to you about the recruiter aspect in terms of how you position yourself, but more in terms of like when you're doing your MBA or when you're doing your undergraduate in marketing. I'm not sure what your undergraduate was, so I do apologize. But is it really a case where when you're in that environment, that is where your networking and your real marketing journey of how to market yourself begins?
Yeah, certainly. So network, especially during the MBA, because you may be sitting next to a CMO, next to a CFO. You have no idea, especially if you attend the evening classes or the weekend classes. That's a nifty trick. If you're a full-time student, do attend those other classes, do attend the networking drinks, be seen, as Jenny just mentioned. Another really good resource is Heidi. If you guys haven't spoken to her, she's
in the audience somewhere.
If she's still there, hi Heidi, you may remember me. Use all the networking that you can get from your MBA. Talk to your lecturers. You will actually find that some of the lecturers in marketing, in particular, they're still working or they've got an extensive experience. That means also they have an extensive network. And if you stand out during your time at the MBA, and you also have a portfolio and you have an amazing appearance. And one other trick is, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So join meetup events, for example, for marketers. Go mingle about. Have a look at the way they talk, dress, and put your own personality behind it. But at the same time, if that's where you want to be, imagine yourself into that position. Dress yourself into that position and go out there. And more likely than not, you may bump into someone that will say, I like you, come along, I'll give you an internship or work one day a week. Can you do that? You never know. But if you're just sitting in front of a computer 24/7 applying on Seek, that doesn't cut it, unfortunately, in this day and age.
It's really riveting insights. Greg, I'll ask you to build on that potentially, and also the idea that if you, for example, the company that you work for at Suncorp, it's a huge organization with many different arms of the firm, including in marketing. So for people who are interested in that area of line of work, what are the kind of things that, for example, if you're dealing with an internal recruitment team or an internal talent team, that they need to do other than the simple basics of just the CV, the cover letter, and also should they do the LinkedIn outreach? Should they try and link and connect with people like yourself in order to try and get a bit more of an understanding as to what you're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, to echo what the guys have said so far, it really is about putting yourself out there, getting out, for some of us, getting out of your comfort zone. The reality is some of these things come more naturally. For others, it's a bit more work, the reality of it. So unfortunately, if you really want the job, that's what you got to do, even if it's tough. So in terms of, for us specifically, I mean, my experience was I was referred here by someone in my network. So for me, it goes back to networking. I had an ex-client who I'd formed a relationship with on the time I was working on his business, and we became mates that way. And from there, he had a relationship with the CMO who was recruiting here. So I'll have to put my hand up and admit that my LinkedIn profile was and probably isn't the best or gold standard. So much so that the feedback that my boss gave my friend was that she was a little bit underwhelmed with my LinkedIn. So he said, mate, go on and fix your LinkedIn. She'll have another read. But like, I wasn't getting past the front door based on my current LinkedIn. So I would echo the LinkedIn piece is really powerful. I knew it was, but as I said, we've all got strengths and weaknesses, and the LinkedIn piece for me definitely was. So I nearly didn't get my foot in the door based on that. But because of the strength of my network, I was able to get in. And once I had a meeting, it was all fine. So I think, yeah, do the hygiene factors really well. So have an active LinkedIn. I think, you know, more so in this day and age, for the time being, there's potentially less networking opportunities, or, you know, video's not quite the same as you know, being in a room with someone. So you've got to pull harder on the levers you have. So I think, yeah, things like LinkedIn or other forums where you can showcase your knowledge, perhaps. I think Paul mentioned earlier, whether it's a blog or you know, some opinion pieces. The other opportunity you'd have is trade publications. You know, journalism, as you know, is leaner these days, so they're always looking for content. So if you've got a thought on Google's new position around cookieless world, write a piece on it, submit it to some of the trade press, and you'll probably get picked up. Like, you're not going to get paid, obviously, but you might get a nominal amount. But you know, it practices your thinking, it practices your writing, which are, you know, hugely important skills. But more importantly for this forum, it gets you out there and seen.
Thank you for that. And Miho, I'll ask you a similar kind of question, but I'll also ask in the context of, if you're a candidate and you want to try and really express yourself and showcase that, show something unique, what value is there to showing your unique sort of self as a marketer, as a person who can sell a particular sort of idea or a product, versus following how more successful people have done it previously to you? Is there a lot of value? Would you place more value in terms of just following your own sort of instincts, or following how others have done it before you, or a bit of a mix between the two?
Probably, yeah, mix between the two. But what I always make sure is to do audience analysis. What it means is read through the job description very well and what words are used, and make sure your cover letter or LinkedIn profile, whatever, include those words just to really make it relevant, so that it's just a simple marketing kind of tactic to meet the demand and supply. So what you're offering and what you can add value to the company and what this position requires. So that's the very kind of basic first thing to do to make sure you get the job.
Thank you for that. Monique, I'm actually looking at the time. It's about 5:37, 5:38. I think now's perhaps a good time to start the breakout rooms. So I think Monique would have explained it at the beginning, but I'll just go through it. So what's going to happen is that the audience will be split into two groups, into two different breakout rooms, where two of the speakers will be in each breakout room. In this case, we'll have Jenny and Greg together and Miho and Paul in the other one. And after the breakout rooms will be going for 10 minutes, and then after 10 minutes you'll switch around. So a couple of the house rules. Number one, please keep your camera on because they'll definitely appreciate being able to see your face. And number two, please come in with plenty of questions that are individualized, because we're all appreciative that different people are in different stages of their marketing journey, and we'd like to hear from all the different perspectives out there. So we'll do that now. Monica, how far away with that?
Yep, all good. So I'll be opening the rooms for you guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi, my name is Balaji. Hello. Hi. So I have a question for you, Greg. So I was a journalist back in India, like for 4 years, and I work for newspapers like the Times of India and all that. Yeah, I was a senior correspondent there. So I just wanted to know, like, you were talking about the trade publications and all that. So I wish to get into content marketing. So
Sure.
I wanted to know how I could leverage my experience from back in India.
Look, as I said, I think there's a lot of them have, so a lot of the trade press particularly have that they get a lot of contributors from the industry, i.e. they're open to people writing opinion pieces. So my recommendation would be, I'm happy to, if you're not familiar with the titles, I'm happy to share some titles with you that I'd recommend just to reach out to, just go through the contact us and basically tell them what you're looking to do and have a conversation.
Yeah, sure. Do you have any particular recommendations?
Yeah, look, I think there would be Mumbrella with an M, Mumbrella. MI3 is a really good one. Ad News. BNT, B&T. And Campaign Brief is a bit more advertising specific, but they're probably a pretty good place to start.
Sure.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
All right. Well, thanks for the question, Balaji. I think James, you're trying to ask a question, but you're actually on mute.
I've done it. Yeah, thanks. I worked that out. Thank you. My background is a little bit more in finance, but I found with a lot of recruiters that they never return your calls. And I found other people that, and one recruiter I actually gave work to. I got people from them, and then they got me this last job, which was not a very good job. It had an absolutely terrible bad culture, and so I moved on from that. And they just don't seem to return the call. So I find that rather frustrating, where even in my role, I always used, with people phoning you up about different things, you'd always return their call as a matter of courtesy. Whether you can do any business with them is another thing. The second thing is the ageism. I'm sort of slightly older, not that much older, but a little bit. And I'm just thinking whether you think that's in there as well. Once people are over 40, it's sort of is counting against them. I've heard some people say they think it does. I believe it does myself anyway, because I've put in for certain jobs I could do literally standing on my head and probably done years ago. And I do keep myself up to date with all the latest technology and things of that nature. But I feel that sometimes they seem to exclude you if you're over that. Well, I use that number 40 because someone mentioned that to me.
I was going to say, James, I mean, I can answer. I'm over 40, so I'm in your bracket. I think it's I think there's discrimination against everything. I know I've looked at jobs and I've had people say we prefer to, we want more women. So that's great. That works for me. I've had others where I'm a woman and so I didn't necessarily get a look in. I think there's ageism, there's, all sorts of, I suppose some people have discriminate against, different races or international people or whatever the case may be. You're not going to help that. And I just think they're not the right organisations for you anyway, if that's how they treat you. I think recruiters, it's a hard one. I know they're struggling with the volume of people and that's no excuse. And I know there are some good ones out there that, get back to all the time. One of the things I would say is get on the mailing list and start attending events and turn your camera on and start speaking. So usually like these sort of forums, because then they get to know you and your personality. And if say it's a forum, it's a digital forum where you're talking about, digital transformation or what's going on, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, whatever it is, and say something. And they're like, actually, this guy knows his stuff, so you get in that moment with those people. So if they're not answering your calls, you can get, people always want your email. So get on an email list, attend some events, and that way then you're front and centre, and then you'll find they'll start interacting and calling you.
Yeah, I do normally attend a lot of events and that sort of, because it builds up your hours anyway for your professional development. So I do that anyway. But I just find that very disappointed with some of them, and they're big agencies who have been, I've known them for years and given them work and then got me this terrible job, and yet they haven't really come back to try and help. And I sent one on a detailed email on LinkedIn rather than just phoning up saying, just listen, can you come back and have a talk to me about my CV and see if there's anything I can actually do. So I find that disappointing, but I agree with you. I do attend all the events because I think, one, I do get the hours and I enjoy it anyway. And there's one I go to, which is fantastic, that they have it in the afternoon on the accounting standards. 5:30 they roll the beers out. So I thought, wow, that's fantastic. So you can have you get everything. They cover 1 year on leases and things like that, which were fantastic. And you can take it back and say, this is what we're going to do with the leases, or we're going to go to the balance sheet. And it was great. And then they these guys I've known for years, they used to be with Ernst & Young and that, and then they roll the beers. I said, and then you get a bit more informal. And I use them for a lot of things as well in the past. And it's sort of a very good, you build up a good relationship, but still finding it difficult when people don't come back to you. And the ageism thing is, I find it a bit tougher. There shouldn't be discrimination against anybody or any person for any reason, is my theory, and I agree with that. But I just find it a bit tough at the moment because of that. I found a few people too who, around my vintage, if I use that word, that they suddenly think that, you're sort of not keeping up to date with different things. That's totally wrong, because you keep up with BI tools, you look at Excel 2020 and all that stuff. So you're really ready to go, and you've implemented ERP systems and done all that. So it's just disappointing. But thanks for your comments, Jenny. Appreciate it. And also, Greg, thank you.
All right, well, thanks for the question, James. I'm sure some of you other folks have some questions. Feel free. Harry, I think you have a question. You want to go ahead? All right,
yeah,
fantastic.
Sure, thanks, David.
And you're welcome. And folks, treat this like a networking room. So pretend we just had a panel talk and now we're in. I know we don't have any drinks or canopies here, but pretend like it's on the side and we're just networking. And go ahead and feel free to fire off your questions.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask both the panelists, Jenny and Greg. I worked in the construction industry. I was doing sales for an electrical manufacturer in the Middle East. I worked around 8 to 9 years there. So my basic understanding of that company's marketing activity mainly was with search engine optimization. All right, and also with product catalog. Probably every 18 months they used to come up with new catalogs for products with new writings and all those things. All right, so like I have always felt that kind of if my understanding of marketing is correct, please do correct me, but I felt that was a very basic and archaic kind of a method. Like today we are dealing with so complex environment, social media marketing, digital marketing. So like or is it because the product is like that you can only do, like, if marketing activity is limited? Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think potentially, like, if you've got your marketing is all about speaking to your customers or potential customers. So if you've got a really niche product, which it sounds like you have, then yeah, the channels that you use to speak to those customers will typically be more refined. I think search engine optimization or SEO. So context for the group, you basically have, in terms of search, you have paid and unpaid, and SEO is the work you do on your website so that you're the top of the search list. So it's a really important and pretty complex world, SEO, and it's super important to, if people are actively searching your products, that you're front and center of that search. So yeah, I would say it does depend on what you're selling. So if you do have a niche product, you're probably gonna have a niche audience. But to your point as well, there are more and more ways to speak to people beyond catalogs. For example, LinkedIn's a great way for more niche audiences if it's a professional service, or you could search by, you could target users by the type of person that buys that product, for example. So, and same through social. So there is probably more sophisticated targeting they could be doing through digital environments, absolutely. But at the same time, if you've got a very niche product and only a few people are buying it, you don't want to be spending a fortune on a TV campaign because you're going to get a heap of wastage. So yeah, bit of both.
Okay. Well, just an extension to that, like a non-technical person like me, like to come into a marketing role, like, do you feel it's essential to, like, do some detailed program on digital marketing or social media? Like, what do you think?
Look, I think there's no such thing as bad education. Any sort of learning is great. So yeah, I think again, it would depend on the role, but having a basic understanding of marketing and the nuances of digital marketing isn't a bad thing at all. I think if you can speak the language, so to speak, then you're getting ahead of the game. It just enables you to have a conversation with the recruiter or the potential employer. And if you can be in that meeting and speak the language, it shows that you kind of can hit the ground running and you kind of know what you're talking about, really. So I always actively encourage people to, if they're thinking about a short course, there's so many free ones available as well. I'd always have a go at it.
But just to add a point on that, like, in my understanding of this digital world, like, don't you think it's very limited today? Because Facebook, Google, and probably Amazon, they're like dominating things. So as a digital marketer, it's so easy. You just need to get your name listed on either of these three. So
yeah, look, there's a bit to it. I think you could easily just buy Google and Facebook ads, but there is shortfalls in those environments as well. So if you're building a brand, if you're, for someone like us with our brands like Amy, we couldn't just have search and Facebook, because it's hard to shift brand dials when basically the video views in Facebook are fairly quick. You're often on a screen this big, and there's a lot of research that shows that more impactful placements like TV ads and bigger screens, cinema ads.
All right, sorry, Hari, he didn't get a chance. Greg didn't get a chance to answer your question
All right.
because we are swapping the speakers now. Just to give you guys a chance to interact and ask questions of all four of the panelists. So we've now switched and we now have Miho Brown and Paul Bacanu with us. And once again, treat this as, let's say, a networking session after the panel talk. And the floor is all yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ruchika. I'm actually into recruitment. I heard the word recruiter a few times today. And I want to reiterate, yeah, there are some biases, issues while we are recruiting, especially from my experience in Australia. Ageism definitely is an issue, and I agree with it, and I faced it myself. Well, we can't help it so much, though. But what I would like to understand and take away from this forum today is it's about marketing, I understand. So if somebody can explain, or Miho, is a question for you. What do you think about recruitment marketing, and how can marketing help recruitment? So basically, I want to know about social media. How can I utilize forums like Facebook, Twitter for recruitment? So maybe if you can add a little bit about that.
So, sorry, your question is how marketing can help recruitment?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's really...
Oh, I would say, as far as I know, I think that the Australia's largest recruitment website is like a seek.com and those major site, right? And then I think the most of traffic goes to that big website, if I understand correctly. So I think the question is like how the position you're posting appear on that large recruitment website as the top of search. So that could be one recommendation I would have, but sorry, I don't have experience with a recruiter. So Paul, do you have anything to add?
I don't have much experience either per se, but what I could recommend is, as a recruiter, network and also tap into the vast knowledge of LinkedIn. And when you think, if I understand correctly, a lot of times the job of a recruiter is also to sell the company to the potential candidate, right? So say, for example, you found an amazing candidate and it's like, oh my God, I really want to hire this person. Then try your marketing skills in order to position the company as best as possible. And also try and position yourself. So when we spoken previously about your personal branding, have that one spick and span so that whoever you're trying to target, especially at the exec level, look, there's people out there with years and years and decades of experience of dealing with jobs, with HR people, and they will pick you apart in one conversation. They will ask you a few questions, they will know. So have your homework done, be very good at your personal branding, and like I said earlier, do a lot of networking.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that.
I have a question for Paul here. So basically, my question is, are there a couple of questions? Are there any resume hacks or resume shortcuts or resume tips you would give in order to stand out from the crowd? And the second would be, what's your take on approaching job agencies and all these third-party organizers who can associate with the jobs? Thank you.
Certainly. Look, Abhishek, the best way to think about it, like, it's about 7 seconds that a recruiter looks over a resume. So you need to impress that person that screens your resume in 7 seconds. And the way to do that, the best hack is to focus on this very simple formula. Within the job, maybe 3 or 4 not sentences, bullet points that say what were your responsibilities and what were the achievements to really catch their eye. And the way to do that is also absolutely align yourself to the role that you're applying, the industry, and especially the job description. The JD is your Bible. Look at it as and read between the lines and understand exactly what they want from you, and replicate that as best as possible with your transferable skills. You don't want to lie, because lying, seriously, it's not good. But that way you stand out in the crowd. And even if you don't have amazing companies on your resume, you haven't worked for Microsoft or Google, that's okay. You don't have tens and dozens of years of experience, that's okay. As long as you hit those 3 bullet points within 2 pages, that's what I would recommend.
So one question, in developing your personal brand, obviously from your business point of view, you want to highlight all the achievements, the good things you've done, and try and list those down and incorporate those obviously into your CV, but also into your cover letter, so they can say, well, these are the points that are relevant to that job. I think that's what you were saying, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. Highlight exactly what you think is relevant to that job. Put it out there in the first few lines of the resume. And look, unless you have a PhD or unless your degree and MBA is completely aligned to what they're looking in the JD, sometimes they say MBA required. Leave education at the bottom and start with your name and contact details. Go into your top achievements, and then have education and then technical skills, as in how to build websites, how to use Pardot, or how to use SAP or whatever.
That's great. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thanks, man.
Justine, you've had your camera on for quite a while. Did you want to ask a question of our panelists? You're on mute. Yep. Maybe I can unmute you. Actually, I can't. I can ask you to unmute, but I can't unmute you. So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So, in my opinion, I feel to customize the CV according to the roles you are passionate. So those are very like a good to spend the time energy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Yeah, my experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. We can definitely tell, like, if someone using the same coffee for all companies.
Yeah.
We've got enough time for maybe just one last question, but it'll have to be quick answers. Does anyone want to come in? Jordan, you have your hand up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, hi guys. My question might be a bit controversial, but I will still ask it. So, prior to moving to Australia, I always thought that having an MBA or any higher education degree for that matter would be valuable. However, after being in the market for almost 2 years now, what I'm sensing is that it doesn't seem to be too important for most organizations. So, is there something that I'm missing, or do you think it's really still valuable to have an MBA degree? And how can I use it to my advantage as I market myself when not very many companies are really looking for MBA graduates?
Very quick, 30 seconds each. I'm sorry.
Go, Paul.
Look, MBA, to be honest, it depends on the journey of your career that you're at. If you look at head of marketing positions or any of the sorts, definitely MBA. If you're starting up, have the MBA on your resume, but also continue with what we've discussed earlier about building yourself up to the skills. And also, the MBA brings you a lot of transferable skills.
For me, yeah, if you go consulting firm or something, MBA definitely yes. But if you're looking for something else, MBA degree itself doesn't really help. it's my personal opinion, but like what you learn through MBA and like the way of thinking I learned from MBA definitely helped.
I'll have to be very careful how I put this on social media. Thank you so much. Monique, are we going to be switching the rooms, or do we have time for one last question? Kanika wanted to ask it, but how are we doing for time?
Okay, maybe we can squeeze in that one.
Go for it, Kanika, but you'll have to be quick.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask, like, when you guys hire, so cover letter is something that represents us, who we are and how we interact with, like what we have done or how we interact with people. So what is that one element of surprise that you actually look for in the cover letter? Because everybody can portray the transferable skills, I guess. Because we have done some way or the other in the university or in our part-time or casual jobs. But what is one that element of surprise that you would look after in the cover letter that would make a difference to you about the candidate?
I'm going to ask 30 seconds again. Thank you.
Miho?
I think like how much your experience or skill set or passion really align with the job description, if I put in short.
Cool.
If somebody's like entry-level person or, just looking for the job, that person, from that perspective, do you have any suggestions? If I am a newcomer, I'm just looking for the job, like Raj asked. So what would that be?
Paul, I'll get you to
surprise me. Like really impressed me in a paragraph with something so, I don't know, anything, even outrageous, that actually catches my attention. Because I'll tell you one secret. 7 seconds is what usually recruiters or internal hiring teams spend on each resume. And if it doesn't catch my eye, you've lost it.
Okay.
Thank you, Kanika. I do apologize. We couldn't get into more detail with that. But definitely, yeah, experiment is the best thing to go for. Monique, are we ready to maybe do the switch? Thank you.
Thanks, Miho. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
It'll be about 10-15 seconds, and then we should switch over. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
Hi, so we'll just do the switch right now. I've never actually done this, so it'll be quite interesting to see how this goes. Yeah. It could either be a great success or an absolute disaster.
It's like
I left him on a cliffhanger.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're just switching. It looks like we're just switching the two speakers around, and the audience otherwise will be exactly the same. So we now got the two speakers who now belong more in sort of like the finance and insurance space. So they obviously come at marketing and the industry itself from a different lens. Let's start the whole process again with regarding questions. So does anyone want to kick us off? Otherwise, I've got one that I'm happy to start off with.
I would just flag that I recognize that insurance is far less cool than Lego. So I get it.
Well,
we're a grudge purchase.
It depends on whether you're going through a natural disaster moment or not. Then otherwise it becomes very interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, don't sell yourself short. Anyone have a question first? Go for it.
Yeah, I had a question for Jenny. So I'm an accounting student myself. And if someone is looking to, let's say, go for consultancy as a choice of, career in finance, accounting, or marketing, for example, is it a good option for, entry-level roles, consultancy, or is it something that you only look forward to, far ahead in your career?
I think that's a difficult one, I suppose, it depends what people are looking for. I mean, there are consultancy firms that have graduate programs and entry-level roles. And there are big companies like your KPMGs, your PwCs, even, some of your Bains and McKinseys that want people, I suppose, like myself, that have got 15 or 20 years of experience in business to then go into consultancy. So I think there are roles for both. A lot of people, I suppose my age, kind of go through the whole motion of building their career and getting to a certain point and going, I've had a kind of enough of this. I'd really love to help people with the knowledge I know, hence they go into consultancy. But I think you can get into consultancy early on. I know the Bains and McKinseys are sort of companies that really require high academics, and it is also about networks, connections, and brand. So they can be quite picky and choosy about who they want in their organisations, and that's just who they are. But they're also second-tier consulting companies as well. And I think if you want to move into that consulting space, if you do have recruiters or even, Macquarie or people that you can talk to find people that are in that space that you can maybe speak to and ask them those questions in those industries. So if there's anything that any of those industries are doing that you can get involved in and talk to people, I think that would be worthwhile as well if that's what you're looking for. So I think there's an opportunity to go into consulting at entry level. I mean, I went into accounting as a graduate at KPMG, so straight out of uni, and very green. So it's doable.
Raj, Greg, do you actually want to have an opinion on Raj's question?
That was probably I wouldn't be able to add anything.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah. I didn't want to just pass you over without giving you the opportunity.
Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else want to put their hand up? Otherwise, I'm going to come in, and I can talk quite a lot, as you guys probably know. Jordan.
Yeah, I have a question again. So what would be your advice to someone as to how he or she can effectively market herself or himself in an industry where he or she doesn't have any experience in? So, for example, if I have 10 years of experience in the consumer goods industry, but I want to shift to banking and finance, how could I effectively market myself?
That was exactly my question, Jordan. You've got it.
Great.
Greg, do you want to start off with that?
Sure. I think probably a good place to start is doing a bit of an audit on what are the transferable skills, because I think 10 years experience in any field is going to probably hopefully have some some transferable skills. So that would probably be a good starting point, and then you can kind of build your pitch around that a little bit in terms of your brand, and also identifying what the right entry level position would be for you based on seniority, but also based on the specific field. Talking to marketing, as I was saying earlier, there's so many different facets to it these days. You can really get quite specialist. Anything from more creative roles through to more analytics, basically. So, I'd say just honing in on what your transferable skills are, and then starting to build out a good case for why you'd be a good candidate for those roles. Because the other thing is, you would have experiences that people within a marketing team don't have potentially, right? So you're not only finding transferable skills, but you're going to be bringing something a bit different. And I think from a marketer's perspective, different thinking is so important, because there's just so many different solutions you can potentially have, and if you do the same thing over and over, it typically gets a bit stale. So bringing fresh ideas and fresh thinking, as well as some transferable skills, would probably be the two things I would look at.
Jenny.
Yeah, I think if you have a look at my LinkedIn, I'm living, breathing proof of you don't have to stay in the same industry. I've been in construction, I've been in FMCG, I've been in pharma, medical device, I've also been in a not-for-profit, and it hasn't stopped me yet. So I get really hung up on people that say I'm in retail and I have to stay in retail. I think that, I suppose for me, I've generally stayed within finance. And so that's like Greg was talking about, they're the transferable skills, and you absolutely need to know what they are. And it's about selling what's unique to you. So for me, I suppose the last sort of 2 or 3 roles I've had are around business transformation and business turnaround. So I come into companies that are making a loss and turn it into a profit. So that's the value I bring. I also bring diverse thinking experience. I'm very agile. I'm a quick learner, because I have been across multiple industries and I've had good roles, and I've also had promotions within the companies I've worked at, which I think is also a good thing if people are thinking about that, is to actually, even if they're secondments, so, you can work in a role in I was working at Novartis in a finance role as a business partner, got seconded to work in sales and marketing. And who would have thought an accountant's going to go work in sales and marketing? I was seconded for 12 months. And I really enjoyed it, and that makes me a better CFO. So when there's opportunities in your organisation, to even if it's just to work on a project that some other department's doing, stick your hand up, take the opportunity, because you can add that value and that skill set into your repertoire when you're looking for different roles. So I don't think you need to be industry specific at all. And it's sometimes what those companies are looking for at the time. So pharmaceutical, for example, they always like pharmaceutical people. It's very hard to get into pharmaceutical if you're not a pharmaceutical person. But I came out of FMCG and showed that it's very similar. There was quite a big learning curve in relation to the terminology, but the skill set is the same. It's just learning how to speak that way. Same probably with marketing. You need to learn the talk and the lingo and the acronyms, and that's different in different, whether it's insurance or financial services or FMCG from a marketing perspective. But I truly believe skills are transferable. So as long as you can sell what makes you unique and what skills you bring to the table. I used to always say I'm a quick learner, because I have to be, because look at the industries I've been in. I have to be able to think on my feet, and I'm very agile, and everyone wants an agile employee. So you just got to sell what they want. And I think, if people have got marketing background, you guys should be great at marketing yourselves.
Absolutely. And I mean, these Q&A sessions have been so good. I wish now we had more time, but unfortunately we don't. We're going to go back to the main room now. I think Monique is going to facilitate that, and then we'll do our quick outros and thanks for your time today. So we'll see you in a bit.
Thanks. Hi, everyone again.
Hi, everyone. So hopefully we've got everyone who's still here available. It sounded like from both sides of the Q&A that it was productive for everyone concerned. I hope you got something out of that. So it's now just past 6 o'clock, so we're over time, but we firstly want to pass on our sincere thanks to our esteemed speakers for firstly their time, giving up their 1 hour on a Friday afternoon when they could have easily just relaxed by with a glass of champagne or a glass of wine. Instead, they decided to spend some time with us. So thank you so much to the four of you, to Greg, to Miho, to Paul, and to Jenny. Thank you so much. And also to our audience as well, for the fact that you've also given your 1 hour of your time as well. So we'll keep an eye on our socials. We'll put this on our different channels. And if you want to have a look at that, and we'll also keep you posted on the next upcoming events as well.
And if you still want to have a chat with our speakers, I'm sure they would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So just search them and then do that networking that they did mention. Yeah. So once again, thank you so much on behalf of the Marketing Club, and have a great night.
Enjoy your weekend, guys.
Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend, guys. Thank you.
Bye.